Happy Camper Radio, episode 43. Come on, let's go camping. Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Happy Camper Radio Show, the only place you need to be when you're ready to talk camping. Camping is what we're about. Camping is all we talk about here on the program. Our phone number is 404-537-2267. That's 404-537-CAMP. You can call us any time of the day or night with your camping question, your comments. If you have a show idea, anything you want to toss at us, feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, and add us to circles on Google+. Of course, you can access any one of our social media sites by going to our homepage, which is www.happycamperradio.com. Make sure you click on our RSS feed while you're there, and this way you can subscribe to the program and never miss a single episode. Let's not waste any time. Let's get our campfire lit and gather all your friends and loved ones around. We've always got room for one more at this campsite. It's the place to be, like I say, when you're ready to talk camping. We are the Happy Camper Radio Show. I've got some shout-outs here this week to David Shoemaker, who likes us on Facebook. Glad having you along. To Tom Heseo. Also to Sergeant Fruitcake. I love this guy's name. Been to his Google Plus site there, and he's got a lot of great videos and photographs as well. True down-to-earth outdoors person. Also to our friends up in Henderson, New York at the KOA 1000 Islands at Association Island Campground. Welcome aboard, each and every one of you. We're glad to have you right here with us at the camp. And we hope you stay tuned for some of our future episodes coming up in 2014. I've got an interesting question to run by you folks today. If by chance, and regardless of what time of year you go camping, and I do understand a lot of folks reserve their camping safer like in the spring, summer, and fall months. Not too many family campers out there are into the wintertime camping, and that's totally understandable. Nothing wrong with going to a cabin somewhere deep in the forest where you're going to be nestled up all inside and warm and bundled up with layers of clothing and throwing some logs on a fire. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, but let's just say for the sake of conversation, you decide you're going to go camping this time of year and you're going to venture away from home. You're not going to do one of these last-minute weekend deals like I go out on, and you just throw the gear in the car and you just go at the spur of the moment. But let's just say you're going to load up into the car and you're going to drive a couple hundred miles away to some designated campsite that you have been planning on going to. But when you get there, you come to find out that the area is under a red flag warning. And what that basically means is local regulations are going to prohibit you from building a campfire at your campsite. What would you do? Would you turn around and go home at that particular point? Would you set up camp and just enjoy the time away without a campfire? Now, I can tell you from my perspective, when I go camping, setting a campfire is really the heart of the matter. It is very difficult for me to go camping, even though I can do it. But for me to set up camp and not be able to build a campfire, especially in the evening hours when I want to relax, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow. However, in some cases, you're going to find out that is going to be the case. And the reason I bring this up here is because this past Thursday, for those of you who have been following local affairs and some affairs across the country in the news, there was a wildfire in the Glendora, California area. Now, some of the campfires that, some of the wildfires that do spark up every now and then, it sometimes takes days, weeks, and months for authorities to determine what the cause of that fire was. But in this particular case, they determined right from the very start that the wildfire was due to 3 people who had built a campfire that got out of control. Reportedly, someone saw somebody up in the hills tossing paper into the campfire, which in turn spread and caused some terrible results. What these individuals may or may not have known at the time was that area was under a red flag warning. And red flag warnings very simply means you have dry vegetation combined with gusting winds. It is just absolutely ripe for wildfires to start, because even a small ember of fire that gets away from that particular campfire and goes 10, 15, 20 feet off into the distance and hits some dry vegetation, it can build another fire real quickly and spread. And it seems to be that's exactly what happened in this case. As a result of this fire, 5 homes were destroyed. Now, keep in mind, this was last Thursday morning about 5:30 a.m., and here we are Sunday. So we're looking at about 4 days now, and the fire is still burning. As a result of this, 5 homes were destroyed. 17 others were damaged in one way, shape, or form, and there were some people who sustained minor injuries. There have been fires that are a lot worse than this. But the homeowner who actually reported this to authorities saw 2 people up on the hillside feeding this fire. And the fire, like I said, was fed by gusting winds and dry vegetation and spread very quickly. When firefighters arrived on the scene, they found 4 to 5 acres already emblazed. So they had their work already cut out for them. Now, when police arrived, they took 3 people into custody. These 3 people were taken to jail. Now, also in this fire, we have 2 firefighters who were injured. 1 sustained an ankle injury, and 1 sustained a minor burn. Now, I picked a lot of this up from local news accounts, but I did take an opportunity to do some research on my own before I flipped on the microphone switch this morning. So I wanted to make sure that I'm giving you as much factual information as I possibly can. Now, of the 3 suspects in custody, I'm not exactly sure what they were charged with, what the California ordinances and laws specify out there for this type of offense. But bail was originally set at $20,000 each. And again, they have 3 people in custody. Since being brought to jail, their bail has increased to $500,000 each, $500,000. And this was the result of the increased property damage. They are accused of recklessly starting the fire, and according to the police chief out there, one of these individuals was very apologetic. All 3 are reportedly cooperating with authorities, and they're due in court this coming Tuesday. So we'll have to see exactly what happens when they get to court, and I'm sure if we follow the network news, because it has been on the networks there about this fire and a lot of the results that occurred as because these fires got out of control. Now, here's an interesting question. Do you think the punishment fits the crime in this case? Again, I cannot put myself in the minds of these 3 individuals. I do not know whether or not they knew there was a red flag warning in that area when they started the fire. Did they know? Did they care? Did they start the fire for the purpose of keeping warm? I'm trying to keep that in mind too. But here you have a situation where, at face value, I don't believe that they wanted this to happen. It wasn't their intent for them to start a fire that would eventually get out of control and cause hundreds of thousands of dollars in property damage and injure some firefighters as well as some other people in that area. And again, keep in mind that this fire now has been burning for 4 days, and these 3 individuals are sitting in jail. I bring this question up because I look at certain situations, and I'm going back into my law enforcement days. There are times you are forced to actually put people in jail that you really don't think deserve to be in jail, but that's what the law requires. I'm going to try to compare this to a similar situation that occurred not too long ago that I was not involved in. But let me draw the picture here for you. You had somebody driving down the road. They were doing everything correctly, everything right. They were obeying the speed limit. They were driving most likely below the speed limit. And up ahead, without any warning, is a patch of black ice in the roadway. Their car hits that patch of black ice. It goes into a spin. It crosses the center line, and the driver of that vehicle strikes another vehicle head on, killing the driver of that car. Now, the person who hit the black ice, they were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. That person was. And after that individual was well enough to be released, he was taken into custody and charged with vehicular homicide. And he was held in jail without bond until an upcoming hearing. I didn't follow that too closely afterwards, but this is what can happen. You'd get into a situation you had no intention of losing control of your vehicle. You were obeying the speed limit, and out of nowhere, you come across this patch of black ice, and before you know it, you hit that black ice, you lose control of your vehicle, and somebody unfortunately dies as a result. I'm trying to compare this in a way to what these three individuals out there in California are experiencing right now. I don't believe that, and again, I can't put myself into their head to figure exactly what was going on at the time. Again, maybe they were trying to stay warm. Maybe they did not know there was a red flag warning in place at the time. They were out there camping. Did they do this regularly? Was this just one of these instances where they decided they were going to get together and just get away for the weekend and just get away from society and everything and head on up into the mountains and just do a little bit of camping? And unfortunately, it's one of these situations that got out of control. Unfortunately, they're sitting in jail right now. Their mugshots were available online. I'm not going to say that they look like they were bad individuals. You can't really judge somebody by the look of their photograph or how long they wear their hair or whatever. But the fact is, they are in custody. And we're going to have to wait and see what comes up in court this coming Tuesday to see what kind of direction the law is going to go in. If by chance their case is going to be bound over to the next highest court, most likely they are going to have a jury trial, and it's going to be up to the individual members of the jury to determine whether or not there was criminal intent here. It's just a bad situation all the way around. Now, let's get back to the fire here for a moment. As a result of this wildfire in Glendora, California, the guest house on the Singer estate was destroyed. That was the Singer family that makes the sewing machines. They had a guest house that was destroyed. It's part of a 6-acre campus that was built in the 1920s. And a total of 17 structures in this area surrounding the fire were destroyed, including homes, garages, and outbuildings. Keep in mind, too, that 3,700 people had to be evacuated. There were 250 Los Angeles County deputies who aided in the evacuations. They had 30 on standby. And since last Thursday, it's my understanding that 1,600 residents have been allowed to return home, by Thursday evening. So, they were just gone. 1,600 of those residents, should I say, were allowed to go back home by Thursday evening. They were evacuated earlier that morning. And I understand, too, that there were a couple of maybe 2 or 3 schools that were closed as a result of this. So it's, I'm sorry to say, folks, it's a bad situation all the way around. Nobody likes to see these type of things happen. But if you're going to be going camping, and I don't care if you're going camping as an individual like myself, I fly solo when I go out there, and a lot of times when I go camping, I may meet up with friends. I just may go to a campground and set up camp by myself. And while I am there, I meet a lot of other people. And that's really what builds me up when I go camping. It's one thing to have your kids with you, to have your family with you. But, when they get grown and they get their own lives and they get moving around, it's just going to be yourself. And why put camping on the back burner because you don't have friends or family with you? You can make friends when you get to the campground. And I have met a lot of wonderful people out there just about anywhere I go camping. So, camping is still in my blood. It will always be, and so will this show. I really enjoy coming here and talking to you every week about camping in one aspect or another. But one of the things that you can do before you go camping, and I don't care if you're camping for the weekend or going off and taking a week-long trip somewhere else, if you want to check the forecast in your area, you have the capabilities of doing that online. And a couple websites you may want to keep in mind, and I'll make sure I put links to them on our website this week. One is going to be NOAA.gov, NOAA.gov. That's the National Atmospheric Administration. Did I get that right? Let me pull it up here to make sure, because that one can be a little bit tricky. It's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration website. Again, that's www.noaa.gov. And if you want to get an idea of what a 7-day forecast is going to be like in that area, all you're going to have to do is enter the city and state of the area you're going to be camping in. I think you can also put the zip code in there if by chance you know it. And it'll give you an idea of what the weather conditions are going to be like. Is it going to be rainy? Is it going to be snowing? Is it going to be windy? Is it going to be just right for you and the family maybe to take the swimsuits along with you? It's a great website. You can check that out. Another one here that I want to point out too, and I'm going to bring this to your attention. This one here, folks, is very important. I've got this one pulled up right here in the studio. And this one is going to be weather.gov. That's www.weather.gov. And when you pull this site up, you can get an idea over the United States, what it looks like in just about any particular region. And one of the areas you definitely want to keep in mind are going to be these ones that's going to be it's shaded in reddish pink. These are going to be your red flag warning areas. Now, in the particular area of California where these individuals had gone camping at, yes, at that particular time, there were red flag warnings in place. As I'm looking at the map right now, and of course this changes, by the hour. The weather changes quite frequently, so you can get an idea of what your area is going to look like that you're going to go camping in. But in the area of northern Texas, in New Mexico, they have some red flag warnings. Also in Oklahoma, around the Clinton area, they've got red flag warnings in place right now. And another area is going to be Springfield, Missouri. So if you're camping out in those areas right now, most likely the local authorities have put some burn bans into place, which means you may not be able to burn. Now, there may be exceptions for individuals who are camping at a public or private campground. And, every jurisdiction is different. But if you go to one of these areas and find out that there is a red flag warning in place, that means that you cannot burn, most likely. It never hurts to make a phone call, folks. Don't be afraid to ask. It's important that you do that before you act. If you purchased a bunch of firewood just before coming to camp and you come to find out that there is a red flag warning in place that you are not going to be able to burn, it's not going to be worth the risk, my friends. So don't do that. So keep this in mind anytime that you go camping. These are two great websites to keep in mind. It's NOAA.gov as well as weather.gov. Keep it in your favorite sections and be sure to check on it frequently before you venture off into any particular camping area any time of the year, so you can get an idea of what the burning situation is going to be like. Now, in the area where I live here, we do have a lot of fallen debris, and I have a lot of trees on my property, and fortunately, the area that I live in this particular time of year, we are allowed to burn that fallen debris. And there are going to be some strict rules in place before you can actually go out there and light that match and burn that. there is a website that we have locally that we can check to find out what the local fire marshal has to say about it. Are there going to be some high winds? Was there a rainfall just the day before, which is meaning there's going to be some low covering skies? Things like that. They're going to consider before you can actually go ahead out and burn that day. And you can check this website on a day-to-day basis. You have to make sure that you have an available water source, a hose that's already turned on. You've got to make sure that that all the debris is spread away from your burning area. They're going to encourage you to burn in small piles. There's a lot of guidelines that you have to keep in mind in areas like this, as well as, if I remember correctly, you have to be at least 50 feet away from any particular structure before you can go ahead and burn fallen debris. In some of the areas close to where I live, closer to the city, burning is outlawed, period. You cannot burn at all. And of course, some people do it, but then they pay the price for it. And just like these guys out in California, again, whether or not they knew or not, they're suffering some consequences right now, and there may be more consequences down the road. So like I say, folks, it never hurts to pick up the phone and make a call, do a little bit of research before you burn in any particular weather condition, in any particular environment. It's so important that you do that. Now, let's say as of lately here, and in fact, I just checked a lot of the news sources this morning concerning this wildfire out in Glendora Hills, Glendora, California. Fire's still burning up there in the hills. The firefighters are now setting some backfires, and they're trying to contain it. Now, there have been a total of like 700 to 800 firefighters involved in this effort, as well as 8 air tankers and 8 helicopters, all because of one particular campfire that got out of control. And on behalf of all of us here at the Happy Camper Radio Show, we want to take this opportunity to thank the many professionals out there who work each and every day to protect our lives and to keep us safe. My hat's off to each and every one of you for the job that you're doing. Thank you so very, very much for your service to our communities. It's hard to stomach something like this, folks. I'm sitting back today, and I, like I said, I have been following this story since last Thursday when it first broke. And, I've heard a lot of stories about wildfires getting out of control. But then again, when one has been identified because of something that somebody did, and they were doing something in the line of camping, then that strikes a chord with me. That's really going to make me focus more on what was this all about. And like I says, I have been following this news story very, very carefully over the past few days. And hopefully, for everybody in the end that, it does have a happy ending. Hopefully everybody's insurance is up to date, that they can rebuild. I really hate to hear about some of these structures out there that have been built, like on the Singer Estate, where they had the one guest house, and we're talking back in the 1920s. You cannot replace that, folks. And Mother Nature did a number here on that particular building. Of course, there have been wildfires out there that have been a lot worse and caused more damage and death and destruction than this particular fire has. All right, but then again, we have not found a particular campfire or a particular wildfire that got started, and we found out what the cause of it was right from the get-go. So, folks, whatever you do, please be safe out there. Make sure that you make the necessary phone calls. If you're going to be going out in a red flag area, please be sure you make some phone calls. Make sure you ask before you go ahead and act, before you build that campfire. Find out what the local laws and ordinances are. Ask the campground host. Check with, if it's a private campground you're at, check with the front office when you check in there. Find out. They may even have a sign up there that says you can or you cannot burn. There may be particular rules in place, maybe if there's a fire ring available at a particular campground that you can go ahead and burn, maybe not. It all depends. Each and every jurisdiction has their own rules and regulations when it comes to instituting a fire ban. So find out before you act. You can't go wrong, folks. It's time now for our feature campground of the week right here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. You know, in just a few months from now, a lot of the recreation.gov sites are going to be reopening for the spring camp season. But right now, it's pickings are a little bit tough out there, but there are a few great campgrounds out there that you can enjoy at this time of the year and take your family along and have some fun. I have found one right out here in Arkansas. It is the Cato Drive Campground. It's a great place to go camping, and the weather conditions out there, well, you can find out by going right to their website, and it's under the featured campground tab on our homepage. We're looking at a 7-day forecast right now. Today, temperatures are like 57 degrees, low of 32. Tomorrow, they're looking at 64 degrees and a low of 33. Excellent camping weather, folks. So if you're out in Arkansas, this is a great campground to keep in mind. The Cato Drive Campground sits along the pristine shores of DeGray Lake in the foothills of the Chaquata Mountains. The area offers stunning scenery and panoramic views, and Cato was awarded one of the America's top 25 scenic views. So that will draw you right to that campground just on that information alone. DeGray Lake hosts thousands of professional fishing tournaments, and it's one of the most popular swimming destinations in the region. The area is also ideal for boating and jet skiing. The DeGray Lake State Park is a nearby attraction, and it lies on the northern shores of the lake. And kayaking tours, golf, tennis courts, and horseback riding trails are also available. Check out some of the amenities on their website right there. They've got a boating ramp, they've got drinking water, dump station out there. If you're bringing your RV, that's good to have by somewhere nearby. They've got fishing, some flush toilets, playground for the kids, warm and hot showers, swimming, trails, wildlife viewing. All a great bunch of amenities for one great location. Check out their date range availability. And right now, the campground is open all the way through Wednesday, December 31st this year. Look at their facility map, too. They've got some great places that you can go out there and just check and see what they have available right there on their site. And if, by the way, folks, if you haven't already done so, make sure you sign up for a free account at recreation.gov. In the upper right-hand corner of the page, you can see the little button that says sign in or sign up. Definitely go ahead and do that when you visit the Cato Drive Campground website. And they're going to ask you for some basic information, and just go ahead and put that in there. And this makes your reservation process go a whole lot smoother each and every time you use recreation.gov or plan to go camping at one of their wonderful camping destinations across the country. It's a great camping destination for this time of year. If you're looking to go out in the Midwest somewhere in the state of Arkansas, it's the Cato Drive Campground, and it is our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. And as always, my friends, if you have a campground that you would like for us to feature on the program, all you've got to do is pick up the phone and call me, 404-537-2267, or better yet, drop me an email, Skip, S-K-I-P, at happycamperradio.com. Make sure you include a link to the campground website so we can feature it right there under the Featured Campground tab on our homepage. Folks, this has been a great episode today. We've talked about a lot of things, and I hope, what we did talk about today concerning, wildfires and how quickly they can get started and spread. I hope it sinks a nerve. It really has with me this past couple weeks. We want you to be safe anytime that you go camping out there. It's so important that you arrive safely, that you come home safely, and you bring home nothing but good memories anytime that you go camping. I don't care if it's a week-long camping trip or a weekend trip. Make sure you do it and be safe out there. The Happy Camper Radio Show is a presentation of Skip Huber Productions. I'm Skip. I am a happy camper. And don't forget, you can catch us online anytime at www.happycamperradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and add us to your circles on Google+. Folks, we'll catch you next week. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.